This morning, I took what was the title of Revelissa's sermon and said, what does this sound like to me? What would I say about the spiritual practice of saying no? So this isn't going to be hers, it's going to be mine. Let's run with that. I know. Okay, so the spiritual practice of saying no. Truth be told, I've never been good at saying no. Ask any of my friends. I've even had them look me dead in the eye when I've had a week trying to juggle a few different projects that have overwhelmed me and say, Thea, the word no is a complete sentence. Please give it a try more often and we'll all get better sleep. Wise words which are beginning to sink in as my age and energy level are taking me in different directions. The struggle to actually say no and do that no lie in a number of variables which have formed me, and I'll wager a few of you, and I'd like to acknowledge them here. Number one, eldest daughter syndrome. As one of 6 kids of 2 parents who were doing the best they could with the tools they had at hand, fashioned in their own Depression-era childhoods, I found out relatively early in life that if something I wanted done needed doing, there was a pretty good likelihood that some part of it was on me to see it through. This included the occasional holiday dinner meal where Mom was in bed with a migraine and Dad was elsewhere. That taught me ingenuity, a bit of tenacity, and the ability to say, good enough, when the time came to declare victory. That doesn't mean I completely avoided my own pity parties. I simply postponed them to more opportune times when I could freely gnaw on my resentments uninterrupted. Number 2, perpetual people-pleasing. That stereotypical stinker aspect of modern womanhood that follows many of us around like something we can't quite scrape off the bottom of our shoes. The place in our lives where we get to act as our very own spiritual judge, jury, and jailer. Here's where I say, thank God for aging, because the judge in me is nearing retirement, the jailer's on vacation, and the jury is taking a long lunch. Number 3, I've lived to see the power of yes. That's the hardest obstacle to know. There have been so many times in my life where yes has opened doors to experiences that I wouldn't have had if I'd said no. The yes of marriage, of theater, of pharmacy school, divorce, new relationships, this congregation, music. All of those yeses have brought me to this place, and I am so grateful for this entire journey. Having turned to face my resistance to some choices in my life and brought many of you along with me, sometimes for years or decades, we've stitched together a lovely family of spirit and intention that I wouldn't trade for the world. So many yeses have brought me to this place. How will I make friends with no? I believe this is where the concept of boundaries comes in. I understand this may be a generational distinction or just an individual peculiarity. I've decided to call a boundary a yes with a rider. Being able to clarify what'll work well in a particular circumstance without crossing that bridge too far. I'm even more drawn to the word discernment. Whereas the concept of boundaries presents me with an image of walls erected to block something from getting in or out, discernment offers me the vision of a porous membrane of choice based on all kinds of variables that I may not know until I'm in the middle of a given situation. It allows also for the realization that saying no to something that will drain me can be a way of saying yes to sanity and my soul. In fact, no and yes can't really be separated from each other. No to tyranny hopefully means yes to freedom. No to hatred hopefully means yes to compassion and love. As with so much of life, more than one thing can be true at the very same time. In the book of Matthew of the Holy Christian Bible, chapter 22, verse 36 through 40, one of the most famous of the pieces from the Bible, the words come, "Master, which is the great commandment in the law?" Jesus said to him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and thy soul and with all thy mind." That is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Whatever the God of your understanding is, the second is a tender gift. Loving our neighbors is most directly arrived at by loving ourselves. In fact, you can't get there from anywhere else but right here. By practicing discernment and measuring our yeses and nos, we can step forward into life, honoring the world and ourselves. So ends my homily today. Amen. And thou shalt. Thank you.